Welcome to the Wednesday, August 27th Board of Education work session. And the first item up is item 1.1, student count trend budget update by Rebecca Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. All right. There we go. All right, so really quick, just on the cover page, I will go over obviously, you guys know myself. Spencer's not here tonight. Luckily, he's in Italy enjoying some time there. But Carmen Benuelos is someone that's been in the district, and she has been working on putting this together for us. She is now in the budget department. So I just wanted to call attention to the fact that she did a lot of the work on this presentation, especially on the graphs that get sent out weekly to the rest of the district. Before we get started too far, I'd like to remind us of a couple pertinent budget assumptions and some changes to those. So the first bullet point here is our per pupil revenue, or PPR. We built our budget based off of $11,185 per pupil, based on the School Finance Act spreadsheet through CDE that did change in between when we did our proposed budget and now. So it's a little bit lower. So that will be captured in the amended budget. So it's actually $11,178 per student. So that will have a little bit of an impact when we get to the amended budget in January. The second thing is just reminding us that we have already planned to spend $9 million of our fund balance for 25-26. Another change is that our 24-25 ending balance was projected to be at $22.8 million. And it's actually going to be closer to $17.2 million, which is a little bit less than we had hoped. And so that will then become our 25-26 beginning fund balance. And we'll bring some more information of that to future board meetings. The other item I'm reminding us is that we changed our past risk assumption from 97% to a 98% personnel expenditure assumption, meaning we will only be 98% staffed across the district. And I just want to remind us of that because we also have talked about it at very recent board meetings, how well staffed we are. So just kind of bringing that to mind, just kind of as updates for the beginning of the year. And now we're going to jump into some student count trends. So this is our district operated portfolio graph. This represents everything that is a district operated budget. That means it is excluding any charters and BOCES. This is very similar to past years' presentations. We've simplified it a little bit. The green solid line that looks like it's at the approximately 12,400 line, that is our line that was student count budgets or student count numbers that were used for revenue projections for budget. The number that is, the graph line that is solid orange and then becomes a dotted orange, that is current year. If it's a solid line, it is actual numbers. If it is a dotted line, it is a projection. And then the lighter green, which is at the top of the graph, that is prior year actual numbers. And you'll see a similar trend in a lot of these where we kind of have a spike partway through the beginning of the year, and then you'll see a dip at the very end. A lot of that is because that is our official funded student count number. So when that happens, even though we may have students in seats, it does not always translate to funded students. So this is based on a 3-year historical trend projection for anything that's a dotted line, including that number that is kind of next to the asterisk and in a block. That is where the business office projects we will land for district operated, which the good news is still above what we've budgeted. And now we'll get into the individual zones. These are subcategories of the district operated, so this is each zone specifically. It follows the same layout and process. So the lines in the Falcon Zone are actually very similar. Their trends are very flat over time. But we do actually currently predict, based on the projection, that they will end a little bit under budget projections in this particular case. And then this is more just for information for your perusal. This is the breakout by schools within the Falcon Zone that create that graph above. The additional columns to the right were added this year. So the third from the right is prior year funded pupil count, so you can see that in comparison to current year projected funded pupil count. The second from the right is projected versus budget variance, so where we're projecting it to be at the end versus what we budgeted is the change, and then the actual of where we sit right now versus budget is the very last column. Before I keep going, are there any questions? I know I have time for questions in the end, but I don't want to go too far through all of these without any questions around the graph or how this works, because this will continue throughout the other zones and then charters and BOCES. Okay.
What does the little red triangle on Patriot mean? Is that because of the additional grade that was added this year, or?
So the red triangle indicates that that's a different formula, and that is because Patriot is calculated, like totaled separately. It's got a manual piece to their calculation for the totals. So that's what that's indicating, because this is a snapshot of an Excel. So it's just telling you that that one is an anomaly versus the others. It's a good question. Good eye. Any other questions so far? Okay, then I'll keep going. So then this is going to continue. This is the Sand Creek Zone. Sand Creek Zone is looking really good compared to their budget. They are looking at $4,815 compared to what was originally budgeted at, man, I'm having a hard time seeing that, $4,670, I think. So, the difference I failed to mention on the Falcon Zone that you guys will notice on kind of the calculations at the top, as of the current week, which is August 25th is when this was last updated, the little numbers up at the top, the 126 above budget target, that's based on the current week right now. It's not the projection number. The budget adjustment is the amount that would translate to into their budget if they had not been advanced additional money at the beginning of the year, because there wasn't enough budget to give them full operational budgets at the zone level. So that's kind of why the advance of the 333 at the top is up there as well, to kind of offset that. So even though they're trending to be above, it doesn't necessarily translate to more money at the zone level, other than the PPR pass through to the school. And then this is the Sand Creek Zone details by school. And you'll notice the same little red flags for PPEC and Spring Studios. And if you guys notice the trend in the type of school, those are calculated differently because they aren't formulaic because of the type of schools that they are. And here we are at the Power Zone. And the Power Zone, you'll notice that the trend across both the Sand Creek and Power Zone are that we have grown year over year. In this case, we also look to be above target. And currently we're 234 above target, but that will drop and become a little bit more reasonable for year end, most likely, if projections are accurate. And then here is the Power Zone, and then Falcon Homeschool has the same little red arrow. But overall, you'll see certain schools across all of these that have growth and certain ones that have drops, and ultimately, overall, for district operated, we do project to be above what we budgeted. And now to the charters. So I will kind of do a little bit of a caveat with the charters. Some of this information, and I think I have this noted further down in one of my other slides as well. Some of these are based on just information that's provided from the charters, and we don't get that as frequently. We do not have all of our charters on our SIS program, Power Schools. So we are a little bit at their mercy to have this updated as frequently as we are doing our own. They are still projected to be pretty much in line with what we budgeted for them, very slightly below. But ultimately, this money all passes through. So even if it comes in slightly below, that's not going to be detrimental to our operated budget. And then the BOCES. So the BOCES is expected to be much over what we projected. And essentially that also is all passed through and will not have a huge impact to our overall operated budget. And this is everything together. Another just emphasis that even though this looks much higher than what we budgeted, most of that increase is going to be passed through to either charters or BOCES. And all of this information is either provided from Power Schools or directly from the charter schools if they are off our student information system. And then this is a summary of the numbers where we project everybody to be at the end of the year. And then just some final thoughts. Between when I submitted this and today, the special legislative session has ended, but the state of Colorado did have a budget shortfall. They had a $1.2 billion. They kind of dropped it down to about $800 million, and they have given Governor Polis a kind of ability to make cuts where he needs based on the news article that I read earlier today. So we still don't know what that will be. A rescission is unlikely, but it's always possible. So just keeping that in the back of your mind. We also talked about kind of our budget assumption at the beginning of the 98% staffing. We are at an all-time high for our percentage, so just making sure we're keeping an eye on that and addressing that in our mid-year budget amendment. Excuse me. And then just a really kind of shocking number that I just kind of want to bring to everyone's attention is based on the budget shortfall that we have this year and the $9 million that we're planning on using of beginning fund balance, it would take us 13,187 students just to cover the expenditures we already have budgeted, where we're projecting to be at 12,517. With an increase of students also typically comes an increase in cost because you'll need more students, or more teachers and staff. So I just kind of want to summarize where we sit with our budget right now, and even if we have an increase in student count, it's not necessarily going to be enough to cover the fund balance that we plan to spend. And that is it. Do you guys have any questions?
First, I'd like to welcome Emma from Sand Creek High School and Mariah from Patriot High School. This is their first ever board meeting, and I was hoping, and I know you guys might feel a little bit off asking questions just now, so if you want to ask them later, you can, but I thought it would be good if you explained to them the pass-through to charter schools and how that works, because we have, well, Patriot's no longer, it's not a charter either. So that would be good, just if nothing else, you heard the phrase pass-through. You also heard the phrase rescission. So if you could cover those, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So a charter school is someone that we authorize that is still a version of a public school, but we take the funding from CDE, and then we pass through their per pupil revenue piece to them, minus any overhead costs that we kind of keep at the district level. But it's essentially we are kind of the middleman to take the money from the state and funnel it to the appropriate schools based on their student count. But that's what pass-through is essentially for them. We also pass through things like grant money and things like that if we are their authorizer for those types of things. As far as a rescission goes, a lot of times the state will do a budget at the beginning of the fiscal year for schools, and then if they come upon a budget shortage or things that they have to amend in their own budget, it can cause a rescission or a reduction in money that they send to school districts and other entities, but in our case it's for rescission for school districts. Any other questions?
Any questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Director Heil.
Hi. I was just looking at page 8, the graph of the power zone. I think I noticed this on other graphs too, but I just note that the trend line is pretty similar to last year, and then when we get to the very end, it takes a steep dip. I was just wondering why we project that. Is that just us being very cautious, or is there some sort of assumption baked into that?
So it is truly an average over the last 3 years. So even though from last year to this year, it may not, or last year's specifically may not have had as big of a dip, it is an average of the 3-year historical trend. So it's all calculated, not any manipulation from us on making it dip lower to be conservative. It's truly an average of the 3 years.
Thank you.
Yes.
And it's kind of interesting because it looks like that's about, I didn't do the math, about 45 students actually, that big drop off. So I don't know how much of that is accounted for in military relocation, or I don't know what that drop off is. I just know year after year it's the same one. And typically we also see a drop off because we open a little earlier, where we start out with a higher student count and then we drop off within the first few weeks. So
Yes, we do have that.
and then I had a question. So you're saying, you talked about the potential shortage because that's a rather large difference of what's needed to maintain that. And then you talked about the aggregate costs of additional teachers, et cetera. And I know in the past we've talked about having a larger reserve, which I know is harder for us to do since we gave the teachers a raise and the other employees a raise. So do you anticipate some systemic issues coming up with that?
Yes, we are looking at needing to make some good size adjustments for next year to basically start living a little more within our means, essentially.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next we are on to item 1.2, the assessment update. Oh, no, are we going to, neuroplasticity? No. Okay. See, we have good, clean fun here, okay? We're going to hit the bathrooms after the board meeting, okay? Mariah, Emma, you good with helping with the bathrooms later? Okay, good.
Good evening, everyone. I think everyone knows me. I'm Kathleen Granis, Director of Academic Performance and Data Services, and I love that. That's great. And I just wanted to tell you that you have never been as spongy as you are at this moment. Our learners are more spongy than even our adults. Today, your plasticity is at an all-time high. The same can be said for our learners, but our ability to learn isn't fixed. Science shows our brain's ability to change, learn, adapt. That's neuroplasticity. It's a lifelong journey and not a destination reached in childhood. Our learners have never been as spongy as they are right now, except for maybe yesterday. Every day, we need to capitalize on this current ability to sponge up as much learning as possible. The saying, carpe diem, seize the day, has relevance towards neuroplasticity. So let's see, I haven't adjusted this in a while. How do we measure the sponginess of our learners? By measuring what matters, measures that indicate the acquisition of learning. For tonight, that's all about the levels of our students' acquisition of the Colorado academic standards. We'll look at the Colorado measures of academic success. We'll look at achievement scores, focusing on proficiency, increase in proficiency, as well as the average scaled score and the growth metric that's provided to us from the state. So, a question has been asked, have we increased over the past 5 years? So there's a lot of different ways to look at that. Measured by the percent of schools that have increased since the pre-pandemic levels, 2019, in that lens, a quarter of our schools have exceeded their pre-pandemic levels in reading. Over half of our schools have exceeded that level from 2019 in math, and nearly 3/4 of our schools have exceeded that 2019 level in science. So let's dig into that a bit further. For CMAS, you probably all remember that we're assessing in both reading and math, and in that there are 5 performance bands. Levels 4 and 5 are considered proficient. In reading, generally speaking, students are about as spongy as students statewide. The graph shows you 5 years. Remember that there wasn't any testing in 2020. Testing 2021 was impacted statewide due to low participation. And there's kind of this big time gap, but then also we know 2022 was quite far from being normal. So comparing to 2023 is something that's really actionable. So in the next here, using 2023 as a baseline, these tables show increase in proficiency from 2023 to 2025. Green indicates the school increased across that period in proficiency. So green indicates sponginess. So you see a lot of green here, which is lovely.
Board, on this screen, it's blue. It's just calibrated a little differently.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's the blue that shows over here.
That is intended to be green. Oh, yeah. But don't crane your neck. Okay, so our previous slides focused on achievement. Now this line graph shows the median student growth percentile for each school. This shows only elementary schools. The next one will be middle schools. Allies stands out as one of the spongiest, highest growth schools, followed by Ridgeview and Pikes Peak School of Expeditionary Learning. And then that color band at the bottom indicates the growth percentiles, how they affect the school performance frameworks. So I had a great conversation today with Amy Zeifel, the principal over at Allies Elementary School, and she said that Allies is such a special place for some of the district's most struggling students with a profile of dyslexia. The Allies staff welcomes each child with positivity and the power of yet, working hard to instill the belief that with the right support and interventions, every student is capable of growth and achievement. And I mean, clearly, many of the students at that school are achieving at higher, are growing higher than they were. They are absolutely delighted and proud of their current data, and the outcomes reflect not only the persistence but determination of their students and the expertise and dedication of the innovation of their staff. Each and every day, they show up and they work hard, and so do their students. And so Allies continues to be a place where challenges are transformed into opportunities and where our district commitments are changing the outcomes of students' lives every day. So I appreciate Amy sharing that for you all. So the next one now is our middle schools. The median growth percentile of around 50 is considered stable. Higher is better. So what impacts sponginess? The data helps us evaluate our programming and our instructional delivery. Neuroscience indicates that lack of sleep, poor diet, lack of exercise impacts sponginess as well. As you'll notice here, Falcon Middle School is one of our highest district-operated schools in the area of growth, and I got a chance to talk with Elena Forehand today over there, and she said that in the past year, every teacher set goals for their teaching, and they set goals with their students. They worked with their students to understand the why behind the assessments that they take, such as STAR and CMAS, and they used new curriculum with consistency, and their teachers worked very hard. It's evident with their growth. So now, the next couple of slides mirror the first ones we saw, focusing on mathematics. This year, we're now exceeding our 2019 level in the area of math, 1.8% behind the state, but I believe it's a strong indicator that we've grown in the last 5 years. The professional development and training teachers have been engaging in is making an impact, and continued efforts are needed. So, are we growing in math? Looking at that increase from 2023 as a baseline, sponginess in our district-operated schools is evident. Increase in proficiency, look at all that blue or green for those of you at home. So at almost every school, that's really tremendous. And then now going back to growth with this line graph, the median growth percentile of schools in math, half of our schools have an SGP of 50 or higher. Shout out to Ridgeview and Grand Peak exceeding there in that range. So Blake Hesselberg is at Ridgeview. He's the AP there, and he says that he thinks the high growth is connected to teacher buy-in. And honestly, they're like 83. They're off the chart. It was amazing. Their math, in the math, they focused on showing your thinking. He said when he finished CMAS, he had a stack this big of scratch paper that students put in strong effort, and their effort was, and I love this, writing is the doing part of thinking. So that work paid off. Looking at our middle schools here, I'm glad that you all had the vision to make the middle school strategic objective. We have 2 of our charter schools up there in the exceeds category. I do want to point out Horizon Middle School. That's the highest of our district-operated schools in growth. Principal Liz Dazel attributes the high growth at Horizon to the PLCs that they're doing for math. Every time they meet to do data cycles, they have the math team share what they're doing and identify how the other subject teachers can support. Okay, so now taking all that you've looked at, the next 2 slides are a combination of growth and achievement through growth in the average scale score. So each school who took CMAS ELA is represented just by 1 dot. And note there are 4 quadrants. There's the low growth, low achievement, high growth, high achievement, and then the others in between. And so the same thing we have here for math as well. Cooler to look when you have some time to peruse. So the next slides here are science proficiency. Science is given in 5th, 8th, and 11th grades. This one only has 4 proficiency bands, and the top 2 are the proficiency. The graph shows 5th grade science here, the district on the left, the state on the right, which is kind of 2 sides of it. And then this is our science data, 8th grade and 11th grade science. State, ooh, that's weird. I don't know where it went. It's on yours? Yeah. It must have not rendered here on this screen. Let's see. Hopefully the rest of the slides are okay. But I will say the science data is definitely impacted by low participation. The participation at the state 11th grade, very low. Ours definitely was much stronger. So let's look at our high school assessments. They take the PSAT and SAT assessments through the College Board. Our participation in District 49 is quite strong. This shows all 3 assessments combined. We got District 49 and with and without goal on the left, the state on the right. And ours was 93 compared to the state at 85. And so I just want to say, thank you to our parents and our students for trusting us on this assessment. So, The graph here shows overall achievement, overall proficiency, and the College Board assessments combined, all 9, 10, 11. 59% of our students are proficient in the area of reading, indicating those students have strong sponginess in literacy. Changing gears to growth. Without goal, our district median growth percentile is 46. If you notice, Vista Ridge leads the pack here with a pretty high median growth percentile. Tom Payne, the principal there, said it's all culture, culture, culture. And they have new curriculum that they're using with fidelity. They have a strong instructional focus. And building-wide, they do supportive PD where teachers observe each other and they grow through each other's examples. All right, so, and here is our math. Math proficiency. And then our math growth. Shout out to Spring Studio leading the way. So our schools have been working hard to get the data out to families, getting the data in the eyes, in front of their students. Definitely already making decisions about how they're going to use this to guide their instruction or determine intervention groups or things like that. Sponginess is important to us, and as you can see, there are strong evidences of neuroplasticity of our learners. There's a lot more work to do as well. Your support is key, so thank you so much for the time you had here tonight to dig into our data, and I'll answer any questions you might have. Did you guys take any of the
Director Davola?
assessments? But you're supposed to ask the questions.
Yeah. Did you guys take your assessments? Yes. And did you enjoy them?
I did. I like to.
Oh, you gotta hit your microphone button. Yeah.
I did. It's cool to see personal growth, like because we get our scores shared as to see us grow as well. So it's cool to see it personal, and then on like a district level, it's neat to see that growth.
Yeah.
I think that we should start focusing on being able to prepare more for our testings, because I'm realizing that my school is pretty low right now, and I feel like I myself didn't prepare for it enough in schools or like classes and all that stuff. So I think it would be appreciated if we could allow all schools to have like a more of a curriculum to prepare for like the state tests.
Well, and you're never going to be spongier, so this year's going to be your year, I know it.
Hopefully.
Director Davola?
Yes. Oh, jeez. I did have a question. I know that one of our charters was new, and so I'm trying to figure out how their growth data was assessed.
That's a good question. The students brought it with them.
Okay,
So,
that's
yes,
what I
yes.
assumed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Heil?
Yeah, I'd like to, if you could go back to page 10 on this.
What was the content? Just so
It
I
was
looked at
the
some
Are We
numbers.
Growing in Math slide.
Yeah, I'm almost there.
There we go. So just want to point out that the board set a strategic objective to improve scores in math. And if we look at the table on the left, we see that we saw growth in math for every one of our operated schools with one exception. Whereas over in the chartered world, it was more uneven, which is kind of more typical. So clearly the investment in effort that the district is making there is beginning to show up. So I just wanted to call that out. The other thing I just wanted to mention, because we did see a little bit of a dip, we're seeing excellent performance across the operated portfolio. Where we saw the dip was primarily from charters, and specifically, MVA was blowing the curve last year. They set the mark, and this year they're in the ditch.
Well, just as a note that you have to look for year-over-year trends because typically they're one of our highest performing schools. And so I know that they had some administrative turnover as well. So I think we need to watch for a trend and that's something that they would need to address with their board and with our administration. Director Schmidt, did you have your hand up? Okay. Yes, Director Levere Wright.
So there are supplemental slides that broke things down by grade level, and I'm going to do a little bit of a shout out to Allies. It has a special place in my heart. But I find it interesting, but also when you know more about the model of intervention, predictable, that 5th grade we see giant leaps, even though in 3rd and 4th they drop or stay kind of low. And I think if you look more deeply into the intervention programs that are required for students who fit that learning profile, it takes multiple years of that intervention program before you actually will see the impact on something like a state test. And so when we're looking at a school like Allies, where they really need a multi-year intervention program to be able to get to the skill level they need to be able to perform on these tests, it's that 5th grade year that really shows us that that program is being successful. And so to see that jump both, you see it in math and in reading both, and often students who fit the dyslexia profile also have a little bit of dyscalculia as well and have some math issues. And so seeing that warms my heart because it means we're sending them to middle school far more prepared than they would have been in a traditional program, and it's working. If by the time they get to 5th grade we're seeing that, we're giving them what they need, and then hopefully the middle school they're launching to is able to continue to support them. I think that's huge. And there's another piece that I lost because my brain is not completely firing today. So if I remember it before you move on, I'll come back to it, but if not, that's okay.
Here, be more spongy.
Yeah.
Ms. Thompson, can I amplify even what Director Levere Wright said? This is the first year that a school dedicated to serving students with dyslexia has achieved the performance level. This is the first year a school, any school ever in Colorado has done that, and Allies did that. This is their first year in performance, and so these are the school performance rate reports that came in today. We have a lot of other good news that you'll be hearing about as we go, but I have about 5 really exciting stories that I get to share Friday at our Peak View event, and one of them will be that Allies is in performance. And if you remember the early days of Allies, people thought that it should be an alternative education campus. They characterized dyslexia as an at-risk, and I am super proud of the leadership of Rebecca Thompson and that entire team, and Amy Zweifel picking it up, and Dr. Mike Pickering and Teresa Ritz for believing in that program, because to see that program in performance proves that is not a lifetime at-risk status. It is a set of obstacles that take years to overcome, but they're overcoming it. And you just cannot be more proud of a school than to be proud of what Allies has done. And they're only one of 5 great stories. So you got to come on Friday to hear some of the other great ones.
Director Levere Wright.
So another piece that I just want people to think about as well and kind of keep in our minds, as we look at this and we see the operated portfolio is continuing to grow, all of that green is just, it's wonderful, it's beautiful. But the percentage of our student body that counts in our district rating that is not in operated schools is significant. And in every charter contract, I think, that we have written, or almost, one of the expectations agreed to and laid out in those contracts was meeting or exceeding the performance of district schools. And so that needs to be a part of how we hold those schools accountable. And we can't achieve our district goal of distinction if they're not rising as our others do. And we have an obligation to hold them accountable to those contract agreements. And so that obviously is a longer term thing we need to be thinking about, but I think it is important to start ruminating on how do we build that framework of accountability. And the same thing really applies to our district-operated schools in terms of the purpose of the zone structure, and allowing schools to have more independence in how they determined how to serve their student body rather than it being hardcore board directed. We were trying to give them some charter-like autonomy. And I think there's a way to use that matrix to say, performing in the direction that's bringing you up, more autonomy. Feel free, you know what, hands off, you're doing what you need to be doing, continue down that path and continue to innovate in a way that supports your community. Not performing at or above where our district is, central office gets more say in what you're doing. I think there can be some give and take on that. So when you can show us you can take off all on your own and you're motoring it, you don't need that weigh-in. Maybe that weigh-in is too much and we're not giving you that freedom that was the point of saying, let's give you some of the same freedom to operate the way a charter does. If you can't handle that freedom, you're not performing, then it gives us, that's the carrot and stick, right? So I think there are some pieces to that are worth exploring at a later date as a board, and this data is giving us, being data-driven allows you to do that, right? So that's my other 2 cents.
Director DeVola?
I just wanted to say that I'm really proud of the hard work that our district-operated schools are doing. Because I think that's our main focus is achievement and growth. And so clearly we're seeing some significant gains in math and we want to continue that focus. So yay, go District 49, you're awesome.
Would you like to share, Emma?
I just wanted to say that it warms my heart as a student who has struggled with dyslexia and dyscalculia my entire life. It is so just powerful to see students who tend to be seen as struggling students or not scoring as well really succeeding and just pushing the boundaries and those limits. It's just really cool to see, especially those younger students. I know I always wish that I could really succeed like that, and so it's cool to see students like that. So yeah.
And look at you now on the board.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have to give a big shout out tonight to allies. And if there's no further questions, I guess thank you for the sponge, as long as we don't have to clean the Creekside Success Center after the meeting.
How you use it is up to you, but it's so valuable to hear your thoughts on all this and your observations, so thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have item 1.3, graduation date and times.
So, good evening, Peter Hiltz, Superintendent. I'm also going to tell you for the second year in a row, all of our title schools are in performance. We had multiple zones where every single school was in performance or distinction. We will be reporting in a couple of days at Peakview that we have a high school setting the all-time high level in District 49. So there's some great things happening. Allies I had a big smile on my face since I first saw that data. And there's also some schools that had amazing results last year and pulled back a little bit of regression to the mean, still in performance, but not quite as strongly. And so the other powerful lesson along with the math result from our focus on math is that it's incredibly hard to maintain focus on multiple areas and improve them at the same time. As we moved up in math, we pulled back a little bit in ELA. And so that is our challenge, is to continue to work on how do you keep moving in all areas, not just these core academics that get assessed, but social sciences and arts and performance and giving students great co-curricular. And you've got to know that our teachers our other educators, and especially our school principals, they are so fluent in their data in ways that they just were not 2 or 3 years ago. And I very strongly attribute that to leadership from you as a board to say we are going to take the time to understand the data and set higher expectations. And I hope I have led as you've expected, and I can guarantee you that the teachers and building leaders and other educators are leading that way. And you're going to hear a lot more about that. Some amazing positive news coming out of this series of assessments. And why I start there as we look at these graduations is we are starting to see what it means for a high school when they have a middle school that is resting on strong elementary schools, and we're seeing that pattern that we talked about 10 years ago. We're seeing that pattern come to fruition in our high school levels. And so these graduations, more students are making it to these graduations. More students are crossing the stage. More students have more options. They can go to selective colleges or universities in Colorado, but they can also go into business or serve in the military, or they can take advanced training in a career. And so what these scores do is gives them options, and that's really exciting. I get to say all that because it does not take 5 minutes to tell you that we're going to have graduations again. We're going to be at the World Arena again, and you can see the dates and you can see the times. We just need you to be aware of it, and on we go.
Director DeVola? Okay, Director Schmidt?
I'm just wondering where these dates and times are.
They're in the relevant data and expected outcomes down here. So we're going to have these graduations on May 23. Sand Creek will be at 9 a.m., Falcon High School at 1 p.m., and Vista Ridge at 5 p.m. You're welcome.
Okay, Director DeVola was next, then we'll go with you.
Just gonna say it again because I'm really excited that I get to actually go to all 3 this time. Yay.
Director Levere-Wright?
Do we have the date yet for our other 3 that we were doing? So the Patriot High School, Spring Studio, PPEC. Well, right, but those 3 we do as a district we did as a district at a hotel, right, on a different day. Goal is another whole set.
So
Or no, it was
the
Patriot,
reason this
but
comes
I
to you
think
is
it was,
because we
'cause it's-
secure a contract based on this. I believe that those graduations are a week and a day before, and the reason that I'm not confident is because those were run by the iConnect zone, which no longer exists, and we have not fully decided if those ancestral iConnect zone schools are going to graduate in the same place on the same day. For example, Patriot High School didn't really have the option of graduating at the Falcon High School auditorium, but now it's home. And so they may consider that. There's some cost implications. They may want to go back to the Antlers. So Mr. Smith and Mr. Horace are going to have to figure that out for those schools that have graduations that used to be in the iConnect zone.
Will we get those dates soon?
Yes.
Because if I have to request a morning in May, I have to do it before someone books me. And I
Yes.
get booked I will literally have every single day in May where I can't do anything if I don't reserve it, like within the next few weeks.
We will know the day and time before we know the venue, but we should know both. I can absolutely commit we'll have it before fall break. We may have it maybe within the next 10 days or so.
Thank you.
Mariah, and when you speak, try to speak directly into the microphone.
I believe that my principal, Ryan Bailey, had discussed with me earlier yesterday about our graduations being held on a different day because we are such a small school. I believe he said a Friday, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, we're still gonna be holding our graduations, just not as the same as every other school because we're a smaller school.
Yep, I think that's good intel from the field. Thanks, Mariah.
And something the two of you should know is, well, it applied more towards some of the smaller high schools, but the Student Board of Representatives and some of the students we had that served on the student board really fought for the kind of graduation they wanted. They went to their district leadership and they really advocated for what they wanted. So,
Ms. Thompson, I have breaking news.
what?
Saturday, May 16th, for Patriot. It's great to have the zone superintendent right here. Location TBD, possibly the Antlers again. How we fund those smaller school graduations has changed, and so those are new calculations for this year. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
And if there is no objection, this will be moved to action. I know, I was going to say just what the chart here. Next up, we have 1.4 discussion on reading the preamble to the Colorado Constitution, and that will be Director DeVola.
All right, so we can kind of talk or discuss the possibility of reading the preamble to the Colorado Constitution at our work sessions, and I'll give you some background and rationale for that. Since our Colorado Constitution is a foundational document that outlines the rights, responsibilities, and governance of the state, I think that reading the preamble serves to remind us of the principles and values upon which our state was built. It also reflects the importance of these ideals in our current context and to help foster a deeper understanding among ourselves as board members and the public. And when we were elected as board members, we did swear to uphold the Colorado Constitution and the U.S. Constitution as well. And so helping us familiarize us with that Colorado Constitution, I think that would be also good for the public to see us knowing that preamble to the Constitution and the value of it. And so I'd like to have some discussion on that. I open the floor to anyone who would like to.
And before we get into that, Emma and Mariah, do you know what year Colorado became a state? Okay, when did we sign the Declaration of Independence? Just for your memory, what year? It was 1776, and 100 years later, Colorado became a state in 1876, and that's when we developed the preamble to the state constitution and the initial version of the Colorado State Constitution. So we used to be called the Centennial State. We still are, I think, because we became a state 100 years after the founding of our country. And I bet you guys will never forget that now, since I publicly asked you, you know. Anyway, any other questions or comments on this, Director Schmidt?
So this kind of excited me, so of course I have a lot to say, and I have some prepared statements. The preamble to the Colorado Constitution articulates the core values of Colorado's government. We can think of it like a company's mission statement or a brief outline. It was included to ensure that future Coloradans knew precisely why they created the Constitution and its underlying principles. Reading it at meetings can serve as a reminder of shared goals and ethics, as well as setting a unifying tone. The preamble is crucial for developing civic understanding as it explains the principles and purpose of the Colorado Constitution, or government, sorry. Of the 60-word paragraph, the first 5 words, "We the people of Colorado," are perhaps the most important. They make clear that the Constitution's power and legitimacy comes from the people, not a monarch or a ruling elite. This means that the government serves the people, and its authority rests on their consent and participation. It reminds us of a shared purpose and can inspire in board members a sense of civic responsibility and accountability to the people. Understanding and prioritizing the general welfare and liberty contained in the preamble can help focus discussions on policies that benefit the general welfare of the community while respecting individual rights and liberty. The preamble's reference to profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe and goals like establish justice and secure the blessings of liberty can inspire ethical reflection among members. Reading the preamble can also help to frame discussion about proposed policy by aligning with constitutional values, setting a unifying tone for civil discourse, and principled decision-making. The purposes and values outlined in the preamble can help create an informed citizenry with an understanding about the foundational principles of their government, thus encouraging civic engagement. If students are present, it could give them insight into Colorado's governance structure, which emphasizes the role of citizens in shaping policy and can give them historical context to our state constitution. Reading the preamble at meetings can be inspirational, promote unity, reinforce the state's foundational principles, foster civic engagement, and inspire ethical decision-making. My question is, why wouldn't we read it?
Director Heil?
While I agree with about 99.9% of what you just said, I'd like to go ahead and field the question. Why wouldn't we? And the answer is, we are a school board, just a local school board. Anybody who's paying any attention to us whatsoever is already highly civically engaged, so I don't know how we can make them more civically engaged. I think that we all have when we have that level of civic engagement, we have a firm understanding of the core values of the state, of the country, etc. So why wouldn't we? Well, because we have staff members here, and they could be going home right now if we weren't talking about this. And I just look at the fact that we do sometimes 3, 4, 5-hour meetings, and I don't know if we need to be padding them with activities that just don't add value. And like I said, if this was us talking to a whole bunch of people off the street who are not normally engaged with us, then I would see the educational value of it and the civic value of it. But I mean, because of who our audience is, I don't see that we would have the desired effect.
Okay, and just to address that, and hang on, we're going to try something here, and we're going to see how long it takes, because I'm going to go ahead and read the preamble. We, the people of Colorado, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe, in order to form a more independent and perfect government, establish justice, ensure tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the state of Colorado. Okay, just under 26 seconds. By the way, this is not for meetings. This was proposed for work sessions. And so it would be adding 26 seconds. Actually, I do like the idea of things that are being more unifying. And I had a little fun because I was asked a question earlier of who is the supreme ruler of the universe. And one of the answers I got, depending on the day, it could be any member of the Board of Education that thinks they are the supreme ruler at that moment. But there are also individual descriptions and understanding based on the First Amendment to the Constitution with freedom of religion. So if you are an atheist, you might have a different view than a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian. And so one thing I like is that under the First Amendment, we do have the freedom of religion or no religion at all. So I'm just trying to address an email that I received earlier, but I was a little tongue-in-cheek about the board. Any other comments? Director DeVola?
So what's something that I know that I had previously thought of too was reading the U.S. Constitution. However, the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. As a school board, we are more local, and so I think reading it from the state constitution helps us to stay in that local category. I will speak to how powerful the preamble to these constitutions really are. Our school, the school I work at, James Irwin, we recite, the students actually memorize the preamble to the U.S. Constitution, which is very similar to the preamble to the Colorado Constitution, which is, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America." And that is something that the entire school recites every Friday morning, and it is a powerful tool of how to unite us as Americans and U.S. citizens. And this is just one added thing with us being Coloradans as well. So anyway, do I have any other further discussion?
Well, I wanted to see if the student board had any thoughts on this.
I think it could be a really unifying thing. I think that 26 extra seconds isn't going to hurt anything, and I honestly could see it just doing good. I think it brings people together, and it's just a common understanding, something that can't really be super argued with or not super questioned,
I'd have to agree with everyone. I feel like it would bring us together as a community and make all of us stronger in understanding that where we come from and what our history is, and no matter if you were born here or not, I feel like we all should know all of these things.
Thank you. And then I see Director Schmidt and then Director Heil.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, it's only 60 words, but my question is, we're talking about only work sessions here, or are we talking all meetings?
Work session.
Okay, thank you.
Director Heil?
Yeah, so the proposal as it reads here isn't we're just going to read the Colorado Constitution preamble. It says we're going to adopt a practice of having different constitutional readings in different meetings, so that this kind of discussion would come up again and again with different selections. That's what I'm reading right here. A motion to formally adopt a practice of incorporating constitutional readings into future board meetings as a means of promoting civic awareness and engagement. So if I'm misreading that, then that's fine, but that's what I'm getting from this.
The original proposal was the preamble to the Colorado State Constitution. I had actually discussed adding other famous quotes or to do a rotation, but what was put before us was to read the preamble to the Colorado State Constitution prior to work sessions.
So that was definitely an oversight on my part. It should have said, "It is recommended that the board engages in a comprehensive discussion regarding reading the preamble of the Colorado Constitution." So if we wanted to
And that was actually my fault, because during agenda setting, I think I mentioned if we were to add just a brief snippet of reading, and that made it into the cover sheet. So
Okay, because you see where my objection was coming from, right? That would immediately blossom from, a 5-minute discussion to 20, depending on how we feel about it.
no problem.
No, that
If you
makes sense.
refresh your board docs, you'll see that now that's been changed just to reflect the preamble to the Colorado State Constitution.
And I do apologize for that.
Can I get a consensus to adopt the practice of reading the preamble to the Colorado Constitution prior to work sessions?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
It's performative. I have no opinion one way or the other.
Yes. Okay. Next up we have, it's just information there. Are we done? Yeah. We are adjourned at the miraculous time of 7:40, and I heard a prediction of 7:45 earlier from our head of security. We beat you. All right, thank you.